we have Gigabyte's AORUS Master RTX 5090. This is a $3,000 card. What does it entail and what does Gigabyte really offer with their card? If you're unfamiliar with who I am, I'm Chris Mizo. I talk about PC and tech. Let's open this up and see what Gigabyte does offer inside. I know some of you are probably rolling their eyes, and I don't exactly blame you. In fact, I even stated that I feel that I'm more Team Red this year. No, I don't specifically go for specific teams, whether Team Green, Team Blue. Well, it might be easier to take it out this way. If you weren't there part of the live stream, I actually opened it up live. If you see some contents opened, you know exactly why. I feel like I'm making a cake here. Whoop. There it goes. What scares me most about this card is how much of a power requirement you really do need. Your power supply needs to be at least 950 watts. So you might as well push it to 1000 watts. But Gigabyte themselves recommends a 1000 watt power supply for their GPU. And you're gonna find out exactly why, because they do offer some very interesting aspects about this GPU. There it is, all opened up. Very nice presentation. You have AORUS's card right here, full of their instruction manuals, just in case if you don't know what to do. Actually comes with a 120mm fan with this RTX 5090. Exactly how come? Because you can put fans on this RTX 5090 if you really wanted to. So you have your 120mm fan right here, and it has a rubber gasket around both ends. That's to prevent any type of vibration noise. And I'll show you exactly how this will go in. I'll leave it out the plastic bag for convenience sake, because it's kind of a pain to get it in there in the first place because the rubber just keeps flopping off. Hopefully everybody out there has a chance to get any type of graphics card, whether it's a RX 9070 XT or a RTX 50 series. Now these are all just going to be brackets that are in here. Bracket, and this is just going to be the foot for also the bracket here. It also gives you these two brackets for to hold up the RTX 5090. They're actually two different sizes, and of course you have this wild wire harness. If you don't have a ATX 3 or ATX 3.1, I gotta say get one, because I would not trust plugging into this thing. But I mean, I'm sure there's people out there that's done it anyway. But you plug in 4 PCI Express adapters into one 12-volt high power port, or as they say, a 12-volt to X6 port. Overall, very nice presentation, and that little AORUS sticker or badge is just an added bonus. Dun, dun, dun. Here is what we're looking for. The Gigabyte AORUS Master is about to come out of this box. Curious about the weight? I have it for you, because when I first took it out during stream, you can really feel how heavy it is. Let me just close that up. That's all that's inside of the box. Let's sit this card up here. I'd rather put it on this thing because it's that heavy. Let's take a look at this marvelous card. And they have it nice and sealed up, just to make sure it doesn't really get tampered with. Whew. Keeps getting caught on everything. And man, this thing is heavy. Now, if anyone says if I go to the gym, I can literally just pick this up and do shoulder raises with it. That's how heavy this thing is. We weighed it on stream, and it weighs up to 5 pounds. That's including with the fan, like 5.1 pounds. Without the fan, it's just barely, very close to 5 pounds. That is how heavy this card is. The interesting thing about this card, it uses these fans, what they call is Hawk fans. They're a little bit more silent. What I really appreciate about Gigabyte's cards is that they are actually really silent. Typically, they don't have any coil whine, which is something you typically hear inside of graphics card. It kind of sounds like a really annoying pitch. You might not notice it because you might have your gaming headset on, but when it does kick on, it can get pretty noisy. But the good thing is, we'll find out if it actually does have some sort of coil whine once it is into a PC, which we will compare to a RTX 4090, which I'm really excited about. There is a upcoming build, which we will do, but I will get into that later because we're here to talk about Gigabyte's card here. So what it uses is Gigabyte's Windforce cooling system. It doesn't really kick on the fans until it is absolutely necessary. If you're in game, such as Monster Hunter's Wilds, where it requires an Unreal Engine 5, it's definitely going to kick on then. The type of thermal gel that they use is server grade. It shouldn't give you any issues, but of course you could always take it apart and put your own thermal compound if you choose to. The way this card is also designed is if you look onto the side of it, it actually has a LCD here. Now you won't be able to see it, but it's going to be on the corner here. You'll notice it once it's turned on. So you can actually put different type of GIFs or some type of emojis or whatever you would like to put on the card, you could certainly do it. Curious if you could put fan speeds and different items like that. It will be certainly interesting. Also, it gives you a nice RGB touch onto the side. And if you look onto the back plate of the card, it does have a very nice heatsink. None of the fins are bent on this, but I did notice on this card that on the side here, one of the fins are bent. So I'm going to definitely straighten that out. When fins get bent up like this, even though it's just one fin, you want to make sure that it has exceptional airflow that is going through it. So it has a passive heatsink and it is really large when you really take a look at it. Again, you can really see right through it and just see how massive the heatsink is. And the reason why the heatsink is so massive is because it requires at least 575 watts of power to power the RTX 5090. It's a bit scary, I have to admit. Anyone who is putting this into their PC, get some insurance before you do so. And have a fire extinguisher ready just in case. And no, I'm not kidding. That is a lot of power going through this card. And the crazy part is, it's still going through the same 5nm process. Even though it is Blackwell's chipset, it is overall just practically like an overclocked Ada Lovelace. It does feature NVIDIA's GB202, which has up to 21,760 cores. It also has 680 TMUs and 176 ROPs, but doesn't really have all the ROPs. When it is inside of a PC, we're certainly gonna check it because we checked it already with the RTX 5070. Luckily, it still had it. Hopefully, this will have all its ROPs too. Now, it does feature a dual BIOS when it comes to Gigabyte's RTX 5090, as it does have a silent, and it does have a performance mode. So depending on which you prefer, you can certainly set it. Now, if you're curious about the size of the VRAM, exactly where were you? No, I'm just kidding. It is 32 gigabytes of VRAM across a 28 gigabit interference. It is running on a 512 memory bit bus, and it does use PCI Express 5. Now, the real question is, will you experience any performance loss if you hook up a PCIe 4 riser? If you want to hook it up vertically, will you experience any type of power loss? It's hard to say because we haven't tested it yet. How are we going to mount this card is probably one of your questions, and it was also asked on the stream as well. Thanks to Unreal Champion, he brought up this topic. Now, what's really interesting about this card is if you look onto the back of here, you can actually hook up that extra fan. That's why they gave you the 120 millimeter fan. It's actually really easy to put on. When you put on the fan, you just use this rubber grommet here. It's actually, you don't have to screw anything in. You just disconnect it from here, and you're just gonna match up the corners over the heatsink. When you match it up over to the heatsink, it's going to be fairly easy. So you just bend it to your will, and just make sure everything is seating properly. Just be really careful, again, about the fins. Wait, goes like this. And make sure you take off all the laminate off because you want to make sure that everything is seating properly here. Okay, so that's in correctly, that is incorrectly, and there we go. So it should sit something like this. Now it's not on exactly 100%, but this is, again, for demonstration purposes. It's gonna look like something like that when it is on. And then you just simply, almost like a Noctua fan, like when you install Noctua fans, they're very similar. How will it feel once you put it into the system? So it's, you see it already? It wants to come off. All right, let's try that again. Remember when graphics cards were so much easier to work with? They were just bigger. Honestly, I'm more concerned about the wire than the actual cooling of the card, because again, that's a lot of power going through there. That's how it's gonna look. It's gonna sit just like this. If you sit it vertically, you can. If you have a ventilation that is going out through the top, it's a perfect setup for that. If you don't, if your setup isn't exactly like that, it'll help in a way still, because even if you have intake fans in the front of your case, even though they're pulling the fans, then it'll be able to push it out the rest of the way. So that's the good thing about this setup. So you could either hook it up vertically just like this, but then again, if you do hook it up vertically, it's gonna blow the air directly onto your motherboard. It'll be blowing right into the side of the case. It's probably better to hook it up just like this. Dropped the fan already. F this thing, right? When you install it on the PC, make sure to install it in the proper bracket. You actually have a connection up into the front of the card, just like here. So you can put the bracket on. You have all the power coming out this 12-volt high power port, which is right here. You see how this thick plastic it has right here? It's actually structurally reinforced. So when you do install, you don't have to worry about any damage to the card at least. What's also very interesting is I love the design of it. I really do. I really can't wait to take all the plastics off of it. It just looks like it's full of quality here. It does have its halo fans, which are here. All three fans are with halos. I'm not sure how this fan is, but we'll find out. The best part is Gigabyte does offer up to a 4-year warranty once you do register the product. If you do purchase the Gigabyte AORUS Master RTX 5090, and also hopefully it is in stock, it's down in the description box down below if you choose to get it, or you can just build another PC. Again, just saying, you don't have to get an RTX 5090. 32 gigabytes is a lot to fill up in VRAM. This card is factory overclocked, so it does have 2.17 gigahertz of base clock, and it goes up to 2.655 of boost clock. It does have a memory clock of up to 1,750 megahertz. Its tensor cores do go up to 680. If you're wondering about the pixel rate, 467.3 gigapixels, and texture rate is up to 1,805 gigatextures. If you're curious about the output of this card, it does feature 3 display port, 2.1 ports, and also 1 HDMI port. Now, the only thing that really bothers me about this card, especially the 50 series, it does not support the X9, and they shut down the support of PhysX. But just recently, they do have open source support of advanced PhysX, but I haven't heard too much about DirectX 9. I certainly want to test it in some DirectX 9 games just to see. One feature it does have is power indicator right here. So it lets you know if there isn't sufficient power to the GPU. Would this be something that you would like to put in your rig? Or is this something you would avoid? Or maybe you're just thinking of building a PC and you feel that you don't need it. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Thank you again so much for watching. This is Chris Mizo, signing out.